Thank you. My name is Mark Oxner. I'm running for Congress here in the 9th District. I never intended to be here. I spent the last 20 years supporting and raising my family. But then I looked at our country and saw what was coming. And I have two young daughters. They're 19 and 20. And I see that they don't have the same opportunity that I had, that we had. We've got massive debt. We've got out-of-control regulations. We've got an energy policy that causes our gas prices to be way too high. We've got government-run schools that are failing our children and aren't preparing them for the 21st century. And I had to think, why is this happening? And I sat back and decided the chief reason is we keep sending the same type of people to Washington over and over again. We send career politicians, we send attorneys, we send people with no private sector experience or very little private sector experience. And we need to change that. To give you a little bit of my background about what my private sector experience is, when I was 22 years old, I started my first company. By the time I was 24, I had 3 companies. One of them became the largest software manufacturer in its industry. But my biggest accomplishment was I took a U.S. manufacturer, the 3rd largest U.S. manufacturer in its industry. It was called Briggs Industries. It was on the verge of bankruptcy. We had lawyers in the president's office filling out the bankruptcy papers. But the board gave one more chance, so I was brought into that company, and I turned that company around. In 13 months, we didn't cut people, we added people, even added a new warehouse facility. And we need people that understand, and the reason that that company was in such trouble was because of government regulations. The government regulations almost put that company out of business. When I had my small business, I had to fight federal regulations, I had to fight county regulations, I had to fight state regulations. They were doing everything they could to keep me from having a successful company. So I know what needs to be done to turn this economy around. I have the experience. And if that was my only experience, I said, I have enough experience that we need someone like me in Congress. But that's not my only experience. I was a vice president of a bank. I was vice president of a bank at the time when auditors were coming into our bank and telling us, you are not giving enough subprime loans. If you don't give more loans to people who can't pay them back, you cannot operate anymore. No, it's sad. I've had auditors in my office that I've gotten up and yelled at. I mean, just, you know, I had lost my temper with these auditors. And now, I work for one of the largest companies in the world. For the last 13 years, I've worked for, actually it's the 13th largest company in the world. And I travel from continent to continent, and I understand why jobs are leaving. Now that's my professional experience. So I have skill, I have experience, but we also need someone with values. During all this time that I was starting companies, being a bank vice president, turning around a company around, in my personal life, I had been on the front lines helping kids that needed help. I've been a youth pastor for the last 30 years. And I was a youth pastor in churches that were very small. When I decided to run for Congress, one of my good friends said, you know, Mark, what church do you go to? Because his point was, you need to go to a church where you'll have business contacts and political contacts. But my answer was and is that I need to go to where the need is. I've always worked in churches that couldn't afford a youth pastor, couldn't afford a worship leader. And that's who I am, and that's what I do. You know, we all want to beat Alan Grayson. But we also want to make sure we send the best person, somebody with skill, with experience, with values, and with vision. And I have a vision, and we'll get into that in the debate, that I have ideas that are fresh, that are new. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark Oxner. I hope I can win your support.